It's a really nascent market, and there's a number of different providers. They all have strengths and weaknesses. None of them are perfect. They all kind of offer varying things and have different strengths and weaknesses. So you have to really you have to talk to a number of them to find the right one for your solution. But it's sort of a technology arms race that is going on at the moment there. And I mean, I think it's quite possible Google will come out with a free tool in the next week or so anyway.
Yeah.
But just to
it's probably true.
but just to sort of build on what Carolyn was saying, I mean, the listening is really, really important. And if you do have clients that are really, really scared of jumping into this, then persuading them just to listen to the conversation is a sort of a no-risk thing to do, aside from the budget that you need for listening. But you really get a lot of insight out from that. Once you've perhaps got past that stage, then what we tend to advise people to do is, well, firstly we say, the conversation is going to go on without you anyway, so you may as well have some sort of voice in it. But there are particular industries, like infant milk is one that has very sensitive areas, pharmaceutical, any industry that's very, very heavily regulated, the company's lawyers will be very, very nervous about you participating on their behalf. So there are some industries it's just quite difficult to do, but in general what we would advise people to do is just start small, find a particular sub-brand or small issue or small community and just start engaging with them and learn what happens, and sort of test and learn.
I'm conscious of the gentleman at the front here who was missed a question on the previous session.
Thank you. Yeah. About 2 years ago, we did some tracking one of our brands in the UK and in the US. And one of the conclusions that we came to, and this might be a research effect, but we were pretty sure it wasn't, that there just weren't as many places for people to go and talk and discuss and generally kind of create buzz in the UK as there were in the US. There weren't those sorts. The quantity of environments were just fewer over here because the amount of conversation generated in the US per different place was much bigger than it was in the UK. And I was wondering if you think that's an issue or true, or whether or not that was a research effect. And just sneaking in a second question, in my industry we have a very definite sense of what local is. It's where people live and where they have an emotional connection. Listening to the panel, I was getting the impression that local was wherever you happen to be. So I just wonder if you wanted to comment on that as well.
Well, can I take the second one and you can take the first one? If you like, there are different degrees of interestingness for you as a user, right? So obviously where you live is your primary area, if you want to call it that. But at the same time, the area where you work and you happen to go afterwards for drinks, lunch, meetings, whatever it is you want to call it, shopping, you cannot discard that as something that you have an affinity to. So there are different gradients of importance to that, but I don't think you can just restrict it as to where you live. In some cases you may be quite far away from where you live, but the local area is really important to you because you have to find, I don't know, a bank point, a garage, shop, whatever it is that you really, really need at that stage. So local is local at that particular point in time as well.
Yeah, for me it's not just defined as places to work or live in. It is a space where there's a community. And so we're doing at Imagination a fair amount of work at the moment with some of the major car companies on how they can own an auto show space where you have a community of thousands of people in different cities around the world, obviously at different times of the year, without being the sponsor of that event or without kind of overspending in different ways. So it's around how you can own a local space where, defining local where there's a community, and then that can be on a very small basis or it can be on a much larger regional basis, as was touched on earlier.
Shall I go with the US-UK one? I think the US-UK actually is interesting because very different social media campaigns work in the US as work in the UK, and I know that we've talked about Ford and stuff they're doing in America. I mean, my personal view is that wouldn't work here. I think Ford are going to be doing some stuff that's really cool here that will work here that won't work in the US. But forgive me if I interpret your question wrong, but for me it's not about volume, it's not about quantity, it's about quality. So it's if there isn't the volume of conversations happening about or interest happening about a particular group or need or requirement or product or service or whatever, then then that's where you work with the rest of the media mix. So, you know, the old ways that you had one brand narrative, you just shoved it out by TV, radio, press, outdoor, PR, so on and so forth. And I think the challenge is how you make social media amplify and drive the efficiency of that media mix. And my view is that the model is switched on its head, so it's just not push anymore, and it's about having an idea, one central core idea, and then seeding non-linear brand narratives out via each media, part of the media. And it's enabling people to be able to take what they want and build their own picture, if you like. So if there isn't volume of conversation, then you can start volume of conversation via, you know, maybe it's around an event or it's a sponsorship opportunity. Maybe you want to splash out and do some TV.
It was Hell's Kitchen, the TV program.
Okay.
So it was, I mean, that was what we hoped that would generate quite a lot of. So there was a lot of TV already and a lot of press, PR. So it was that was the same.
I mean, that kind of surprises me because there's so many forums and blogs and gatekeepers within, you know, food, restaurants. I mean, I probably you'd be better answering this.
Not as many as the US, I have to say, when it comes to actually communities that are around food, around cooking, around, you know, recipes, around TV shows. There may be, if you like, a same amount of next generation directory players, which is what we're classed sometimes as. But yeah, the food blogging community, for example, is I think it only started to emerge the last 3 years and really picking up momentum over the last 2 years. But you've got sites in the US that have had passionate communities around the subject for 10 years plus.
Just to really quickly add, I think it's easy to sort of think about social media with sort of national borders around it, but actually it doesn't quite work like that. And in fact, you sort of have an English language internet. You have an English language social media with sort of fuzzy edges around the edges with people who speak multiple languages. So we're often asked by people in the UK, our clients in the UK, well, we only want to talk to people in UK websites because we don't control America. We don't want to talk to any of them. Well, we say, well, actually, a lot of your UK audience are participating on American sites. So if we look at some of the tracking tools like Alexa, you can see that maybe 30% of the traffic to a given site is from the UK, and that may make up a couple of million people in some cases. So actually, we do need to talk to that site, even though there's a lot of Americans that will hear this message. A significant part of your audience will as well, and we have the same sort of situation with the sort of the francophone internet and et cetera, et cetera. So you've got to be careful of thinking about it in terms of border, but it's more useful to think about it in terms of language.
And tone, I guess, to some extent, tone of voice and relevance on the service you're
Community
working
relevance.
with. Yeah. Thank you very much to the panel and to the audience for your questions. We've been told that we're at the end of our time. If you'd like to thank the panel, thank you.